Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. On this video we'll be recreating this dress you are seeing displayed on your screen right now. I'll be showing you how to draft and cut all the pieces that we used in making this dress. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and let's get right into the tutorials. So for this tutorial we'll be using this fabric. It's an African print fabric. I have about 1.5 yards of this lace fabric, and then I have my lining. I'll be drafting on this pattern paper. So first off, I'm going to be drawing my starting line. This is going to be my shoulder line, so let me label it SH for shoulder line. The first thing I'll be doing is to draft my basic bodice. So from the shoulder line I'll be placing my chest line at 8 inches. I'll be placing my bust points at 10 inches. I'll be placing my half length for the front at 16 inches. If you don't know how to calculate to get your chest line, this is how to calculate to get for your chest line. Every other thing, you measure it from the body's client or the model or yourself, depending on who you are sewing for. Now, the next thing you want to do is to repeat this point. I'm repeating this point so that I'll be able to get a straight line. I'll draw a line across this point. So here I have my chest line, I have my bust point, and I have my waistline. This is my half length for the dress. On this shoulder line, I'm going to be placing my back shoulder divided by 2. I'll place it here. I have 8 inches, so I'll place it here 8 inches. And I'll also place it on my chest line. Join these 2 points together. After drawing this line here is going to be our armhole line. The next thing I'm going to do is to place my neckline. And for my neckline, I'll be going in by 3.5 inches, and I'll also come down by the same 3.5 inches, and I'll make a curve connecting these 2 points together. Next is my armhole. For my armhole, I'll come down here on this armhole line by 1 inch. This 1 inch is to get my shoulder slope. So this is going to be my shoulder slope. And then the rest of this armhole line, I'm going to measure it. It's 7 inches. The midpoint of this 7 inches is 3.5 inches. Now for my armhole curve, it's going to be from my shoulder slope to this midpoint and then to my chest line like so. The next thing I'll be placing is my dart. So for my dart on this bust point, I'll be placing my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 3.5. Some people's own is 3, some people's own is 4. So you have to measure it to get it. Okay, so this is what I have here. I'll join it with a straight line. Take out 1/2 inch on both sides of this waistline like so, and I'll make a slant line to connect it back to the bust point like so. The next thing I'm going to do is to place my round measurement. My bust round divided by 4 is 8.5. I'll place it here, and I'll add 1.5 inch stitching allowance. Now for my waist, I will place my waist round divided by 4, which is 6.5, to measure this dart, which is 1 inch, and replace it here. Add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inch. So this is what we have here. Now the next thing I want to do is to work on that neckline. I want to draft out the neckline that we'll have on our inspo. Our inspo diagram has a yoke, and the neckline that connects the Ankara fabric to the lace is not straight. So to do that, on this neckline that we have here, the original neckline, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. From this 1 inch, I'll connect it to this point here. From this 1 inch mark, I will just connect it to this midpoint from the armhole. I will be adding allowance when I'm cutting this part, and this is going to be my yoke, and this is going to be my African print fabric. So technically this is all we need to adjust for this top part of the dress. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. To cut this on our fabric, this is a half pattern, so this will be cutting in a fold. It's very important to note that because this is a half pattern. So to cut this out, I'm going to fold my fabric into 2. I went ahead to cut out just enough fabric that will accommodate this pattern, and I'll place my pattern paper on top of it like this. So I'll be leaving about 1 inch here to serve as my joining allowance, and I'll pin this down. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So after pinning on my Ankara fabric, this is a yoke. So we'll be cutting this out from this line. On this part of the fabric, I'll be adding 1/2 inch as the joining to the yoke. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out every other thing. This is what we have for our Ankara pieces.
I will be cutting out the pieces that we have for our yoke, and I'll be using this lace fabric. Okay,
Fold my fabric into 2, place my pattern, I like to reintroduce this one so that I will know how much space I'll be leaving here. I'll first cut this neckline. After cutting the neckline, I'm going to pin this down. Now after pinning it down, I'm also going to add ½ inch along this side, just like I did for the Ankara fabric. So this is what I have for the front bodice, and when you take out this excess that we have here, this is what it will be looking like. It will look like one full piece. Now let's go ahead and draft for our back. So we'll be drafting for the back, and the back is technically the same with the front, but the difference is that it has a zipper allowance. So we'll first start by drafting out the zipper allowance for the back. I will be going in by 1.5 inch from the top of this paper to the full length. So this is our zipper allowance. From this point now, every other measurement we'll be placing will be after this line, this way. So we will not be including this zipper allowance area when we are placing our measurement. I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did for the front. I will be marking out my shoulder line, and this is my shoulder line. From this shoulder line, I'll place my shoulder to chest line at 8, my shoulder to bust point at 10, my shoulder to waistline at 16. I'll be placing my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and that is 8 inches. I'll place it on the chest line as well. This is technically repeating what I did for the front, and I'll draw a straight line to join. So this is my armhole line. Now for this back, I'll go in by 3.5, but the depth of the back will not be as deep as that of the front. So for the depth of the back neckline, I'll just go down by 1 inch, and I'll make a curve. I'm going to come down by 1 on this armhole line to get my shoulder swoop. The rest of the line I'll divide by 2. On the midpoint, come in by ½ an inch and make a curve. For the dart of the back, that's another difference. We will not be using this bust point to place our darts for the back. I will be using this chest line. So we'll be placing our nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 on the chest line and on the waistline. Now on the waistline, we'll come out on both sides by ½ inch and make a slant line to the chest line. The next thing we are going to do is to place our round measurement. Our bust round divided by 4. We'll be placing it on the chest line and not on the bust point like we did for the front. For the front, you place your bust round divided by 4 on your bust point, but for the back you place it on your chest line. And we'll add 1.5 inch stitching allowance. For the waistline, we also place my waist round divided by 4, replace the dart, which is 1 inch, add my stitching allowance 1.5 inch, and join these points together. One basic thing I like to do for my back pieces is I like to adjust the waist so that it will reduce the bulge that I will have at the back. To do that, I just divide anything that I used for my zipper allowance. For this one, I used 1.5, so I will divide that into 2. Make a slant line from this point into the chest line, like so. So this is what we have for the back pieces. For the back pieces, I'll just come down from this shoulder to about 5 inches, and I'll draw a line to the armhole from this point, just a straight line. So this part is going to be the yoke, and this part is going to be the African print. I'll be adding ½ inch to this point while cutting it out, and I'll also be adding 1 inch to this point while cutting it on my fabric to act as my joining allowance. Basically, this is all for the back piece. I'll adjust this line. Being that this is a half pattern, after cutting it out, we'll be cutting 2 pieces of this, and we'll also be cutting 2 pieces of this for the 2 sides of the back. I'll be adding ½ inch to this point to act as my joining allowance, and this 1 inch here is also to act as my joining allowance to the skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and cut every other thing out. So for the yoke, I folded my fabric into 2, so I can be able to cut out the 2 pieces at once. I will be adding ½ inch to this part, and I'll be cutting this out. So this is what we have for the back bodice. I'm going to go ahead and cut for the skirt. I have my fabric that I want to be using, and I'm going to fold it into 4. When I finish folding into 4, this place has a fold and this place does not. I will be leaving this area here serve as my zipper allowance. Now first of all, I'll be marking out my zipper allowance from this point. So from this place I have my fold. I'll place my 1.5 inch point and mark it. And for the length, I will be placing my half length. For the top, I use the half length of 16. So I'll be placing this at 16. This space will be serving as our joining allowance. Draw a line across that point. From this 16, I'll place my hip point at 24, my knee point at 37. Place the full length of this dress at 45. Now on this waist point, I'm going to place my waist round measurement divided by 4. And when I'm placing my tape, you can see that I'm placing my measurement from this folded area. I'm totally ignoring this zipper allowance area. Then on my hip point as well, I'll place my hip round divided by 4. On my knee, I'm going to place that same thing I have on my hip here, on my knee. And I'll be coming out by 2.5 inches. I'll be coming up on this my full length with about 5 inches. This 5 inches point, I'm going to align whatever I have on my knee to this point, and from this point I'll just make a slant line. I'll make a slant line from the full length to this point. So this is what I have here. I'm going to go ahead and join my point, and as you can see how the line went, it's not a straight cut, it's like an A-line shape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And remember that when I was placing my measurement, I did not add any allowance. So as I'm cutting, I'll be adding my 1.5 inch allowance. Now this is what I have for the skirt part. The next thing I want to do is to open it up. Before opening it up, I'm going to pin out this part that has my zipper allowance. So I'm just going to pin it together so that it's one piece. Now I'll open the front pieces like so. This is what we have. I'll also open the back piece. Okay, so this is the whole point of pinning down the zipper area, so that it's going to look like this. It's going to look like one piece when you open it up. So we'll also place it right side facing each other. This is what we have. I like to work with this part. I like to flip it over to this part because this is where we have our lines. From one side of this hip, this is our hip line, remember. I'll draw a curved line from this point to this midpoint. I don't want it to be straight. So yeah. So after drawing our line, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. This is where our net will be going in. So this is what we have for the skirt. This is going to serve as the front, and this is going to serve as the back. So I'll be cutting the lacing detail that we'll have by the side of this dress, and to do that, I'm just going to measure about 15 inches. I folded this lace into 4 pieces, okay, and I'll just place my tape and measure about 15 inches, and I'll cut this out. So this is going to be the lace detail. At the end of the day, I'm going to gather it. I'm going to gather it this way. Now to cut our sleeve, I'm going to fold it into 4 so that we'll be able to cut the 2 sleeves for the dress together. For this tutorial, we're able to cut out the sleeve, the skirt pieces that has this curve by the side. Also able to cut out this for the Ankara fabric, this for the front pieces in a fold, and this for the back pieces, okay, 2 pieces of this. I don't want this video to be too long, so I'll be cutting this video here. But the extra thing I'm going to do is that all the African print fabric, I'll be cutting a lining that matches the shape and the size exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my lining, and on my next video I'll be teaching you guys how to join all our pieces together.